Welcome to another episode of the PPSS Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, also best-selling author, and every single day I help others unlock the potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have another fascinating guest. On the show, we interview celebrities, entrepreneurs, business CEOs, athletes, artists to find out their path to success, how they're able to overcome challenges and adversity, of course, their keys to success. And today's guest is definitely somebody who can add some light into that because he is very, very good at what he does. He comes highly recommended and sought after. And the people that he works with, all his clients, the companies he works for, he really has this knack of really showcasing their value, their uniqueness to people all over the world, which increases their impact and their engagement, of course, their sales, and ultimately their success. He is the driving force behind creative branding agency Hammersport Marketing. He is an expert when it comes to sales, marketing, branding, high-ticket sales. He really champions for the art of strategic branding and communication. So please welcome branding, marketing, sales expert, creative director, Mr. Lewis May.
Thanks, Fong. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to talk to you and, get to know you a little better and see if we can help some people out.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. And well, I start off every show by doing this. Give me your origin story. What was
Sure, thanks.
what was your path to who you are today, or what is that? What's that spaceship that brought you here? All that great stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to share. I guess I'm from Minnesota. I started in school as kind of in engineering. I grew up in a wood shop in the country. My father is a fine woodworker, and my mother is a school teacher. Dad was a Vietnam vet, so we were in the country. And I mean, my upbringing, I think, as everybody's, has a lot to do with who I am as a person. Growing up in the country, learning to use my hands, learning to work on projects, kind of having the freedom to really what my parents really did for me was give me the freedom to explore the world and do that on my own. And when you live in the country, you kind of get that no matter what, because your parents give you the freedom to go out and do that. And that's probably why we were living in the country, because my parents didn't want me to have the freedom to go out into the city and do stuff. They wanted me to be in the country to go out and do stuff. So that has a lot to do with it. From there, I went to college for engineering. And I think why I didn't complete that is it didn't have enough of, I thought it was going to be an exercise in creativity. And this is all hindsight being 2020, of course. Now I realize, I was drawn to it because I wanted to be creative and build things. And then as I got farther down the program of engineering, I think they scared me away. Some of the teachers scared me away and made me think, whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. I kind of came to believe that engineering was going to be really rigid. I was going to be sitting at a computer doing Fortran, which is a programming language, and just be doing Fortran. And they were like, you're going to destined to do Fortran the rest of your life. And I was like, no, I am not. So then I kind of got into the entrepreneurial world a little bit in that, well, I went to work at a restaurant first. So you start to learn sales and you start to deal with people on a regular basis and start to kind of enjoy interacting with random people, right? You're interacting with your team, you're interacting with your leadership, and then you're interacting with the general public who can be all over the place, right? So I learned to fit in and, find my place in that. Then a gentleman was like, hey, you have really good hands. I was a bar back at the time, catching glasses and washing them really fast. And you're just like, you're a machine, right? You're the machine of the whole restaurant because everybody else is in their spot. You got to kind of tackle everything around the whole place because you're bussing and you're washing glasses. Anyways, he was like, hey, you have good hands. You should come and be a roofer with us. You'll make more money. I was like, oh, well, I like money. And so I went and did that. And because of my upbringing in a wood shop, doing crafts, art, and carpentry, I was instantly the best roofer on the whole team, other than I didn't quite have my roofing legs, which is the ability to walk to the edge of a roof and stand there and work and be comfortable in really, really uncomfortable spots. So I did that for a couple of years. I kind of started running crews and, trying to figure out how to maybe lead people in that aspect and get the job done. You always had to fit. That's the one thing in construction. You never get to not finish the project. So I think it's way different than the entrepreneurial world and the world of exploring and figuring out what you want to do and the ideas in your head. That's which is our huge obstacle to overcome, changing it from idea to action, right? But I think being in the construction world helps with that, because you don't have the option to just be like, I don't like this anymore. You can do that after the project, but in the middle of the project, there's so many people relying on you. You have all the team and all the workers, you have the business and the owners and the people you're partnered with. And then you have all the customers. If you're on a big project, you have hundreds of customers in an apartment building, and you can't walk out on all these people. So it really helps to teach that part of it. So I've been very successful. That fast forward 20 years through the roofing industry, I worked in a couple other, you always try to get out of the roofing industry. So you go into a couple other sales experiences. I actually sold gold over the phone for a couple of years. Not like, the only way I could justify that was like taking stagnant money out of the economy and reintroducing it. But we didn't steal from people. That's good. Other than that, not a fan. But I did learn a lot about vocal skills and cold calling and speaking to people over the phone. And that's an important communication and sales tool. Voice inflection. You can't just talk like this all the time, because nobody will respond. And then you learn to have fun with it and say weird things, catch people off guard. You just got to have fun with it, just like everything. Another venture into sales was health and life insurance. And I did that for about 5 years and was moderately successful. Made some wrong business strategy decisions that kind of bit me in the butt, and that's okay. And got back into the roofing, became a license holder here in Florida, did that for 15 years and found some good success with that, and wanted to transition, through being in roofing for 20 years and numerous different sales experiences. I knew that I didn't want to be a roofing owner. And I didn't feel like I didn't want to partner with anybody, or I never found a good partner, but I really believe that in some industries, partnership is probably good, and for me, I didn't want to run a roofing company or own one or build one all by myself. So I took a position with a commercial property investor who, he kind of worked to hire me for maybe 6 months or even maybe a year. And after a year or so, I kind of convinced myself and sat down, and he was like, hey, I've been doing this. I started in 2005 in South Florida. I saw that the bubble was going to take place. I stopped purchasing in 2008. I'm just speaking from memory, went through that, and now I buy hotels, and I want to control $1 billion worth of property. And I was like, I'd never heard anybody say that before. That's a big statement. I had to be like, hey, what did you say there? And an impressive man, solid strategy, very disciplined. His success came in that he just looked at 100 hotels to buy when everybody else looked at 10. So just persistence. So I went to work for him. He bought an apartment. It was his first apartment building, 197 units. 85% occupied. He purchased it. He raised $7 million in an afternoon with his investors. Maybe a little more. I think he put in 3 or 4 million of his own. Yeah. And then raised 7 to 9 million. I can't remember. I think he got it for 9 and had 3 million in capital improvements available. And so my job was to run that business and renovate the entire property. And I was like, well, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to learn so much from this guy. And I did learn, But on July 1st of 2017, I woke up and I was the sole employee of an 85% occupied 197 unit apartment complex. And I was like, rent's starting to come in. I got to get this stuff in the bank. Wait a second. If I just go put this in the bank, how am I going to know who paid rent? And then and I was like, okay, I guess he wants me to figure this out. So it was an amazing experience. I loved the job. 12 to 14-hour days, tons of energy, no problem doing it. Hiring people, which was very frustrating because they learned about the economy, the economics of hiring people in a community that you're not familiar with. Because I had to move to Gainesville to do this. There's going to be new variables that you weren't aware of. The new variable there was all the contractors were taken up because they're all working at that point to do the turnover to get ready for all the apartments that need to be ready in the fall for all the kids to come back to school. A million, like a couple 100,000 people entering the city, right? So lots of challenges. It was an awesome experience, but I had to do it all by myself, which was really weird, very, very strange. I didn't really have a falling out with that guy, but I got to the point where I was like, this guy's gonna he kind of treated me poorly once, and I was like, okay, I can handle that. But this is kind of, I see a pattern forming here of like something that didn't feel right to me, and I learned a technique then that I maybe had heard about. No, I'd already been using this. It's the technique of laying on your deathbed. When you need to make a decision about what to do in your life, you got to think about, I like to think about, well, how am I going to feel about this when it doesn't matter anymore? Like, I did this for golfing prior to that. Like I was making really good money. I had a good business system in place. I had employed to do my stuff, and I just had to make sure the roofing company had their permits and stuff. And I was golfing a lot by myself. And one day I'm like, man, am I pissing my life away here? Is this stupid? Should I be grinding harder to make more money or, da-da-da-da? And I was like, well, if I'm laying on my deathbed, am I going to be mad that I was out enjoying life in nature, choosing to do that instead of hustling and grinding? And I was like, heck no.
Right.
Like, I'm going to take these opportunities to live life and have good times and do the things I love when I get them, because all this money could be gone and then I can't do this stuff anymore. And lo and behold, that sort of thing does happen, when you're living an entrepreneurial life. So I used that deathbed thing with him, because I was getting a modest salary, but I had a ownership position in the property if I vested in over a period of time, right? So I was like, well, I'm going to be this is going to get me a couple $100,000 to $500,000 by the time this project's over. I got to stick with this guy for 3 years. I'm going to have to put up with his behavior and the way he treats people for this 3 to 5 years, because he's not going to change. People don't change like that unless they want to. I'm not going to change him. And I'm not going to change either. I'm not going to go into this job half-assed because somebody treated me poorly. I'm going to always give my all in doing something. How am I going to feel about sacrificing the next 3 to 5 years of my life when I'm laying on my deathbed? I was like, and it was instant. I was like, well, I got to resign from this position.
Well,
and because I realized that if I'm going to work this hard, it's got to be for fulfillment and, finding something, helping people. It has to be more than just for accruing wealth. And if I'm going to feel this way, like, I'm not going to feel this way myself, but I'm going to work this hard. I might as well be working this hard for myself,
Right.
And so that was the big switch where I went from, I've always been self-employed. So I've always, been a 1099 contractor. So I've been responsible for my own well-being somewhat, but that was the big switch where it's like, okay, I'm ready to take this a next step further. So I was, then a big hurricane hit and I made a bunch of money here in Orlando. Okay. So it kind of had to happen anyways. I needed to resign from that and carry on with my roofing position. So then I'm sitting on some cash and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this, and I know what you would have done. I know what most people would have done. And I thought about that. It's 2018. I was like, well, I should invest this in a property. But I've been working on houses all my life.
I don't want to see another one.
I hate painting.
Uh-huh.
And I hate drywall and I hate insulation. I have done all that stuff way too much. I can do it, but I know how this goes. I know what works out, nothing's for sure. So I'm going to be really stressed out buying a property for the first time because I'm not going to know what the outcome is and nothing's guaranteed. I'm not going to know if I made a bad decision or a good decision. I'm not going to know if the economy is going to get, hindsight being 2020, I would have tripled my money with one house practically here in Orlando, you know, but I didn't know that. I just went based on what it was going to feel like and what I was going to be doing and whether it was going to be all about myself or about others. And I mean, I just couldn't do it. So I made the insane decision to do that instead. Right there. And horrible financial decision, okay? Look, terrible. Like wealthy people are supposed to race and I wasn't wealthy. But I'm not gonna, I wouldn't take it back for anything because it taught me so much about who I am and it brought me on the path that I'm on right now, right? Which is one of meaning and fulfillment, which are kind of the most important things to me. I'm just not worried about being able to take care of myself. Maybe I should be, but I'm just not. So I bought that and it became an adventure of marketing because I realized right away, it's like, well, I can't afford to just sustain this whole thing unless I figure out how it can make some money, right? And how does the race teams make money? Well, they put people's names, businesses' names on their car, and then they represent that company as a sponsorship, you know, and try to be a marketing tactic for that company. And then I realized quite logically that any business, like I can only deal with ultra wealthy people then, because any business that's coming to me and going to give me 10, 20 grand to go racing and put their name on my car probably shouldn't be doing that. Like they probably should be, you know, working out their own marketing strategy and plan to get that in place. And it's doubtful that this tactic fits within that logical plan for success in their business. So that led me down the path of marketing in general. And I wanted to discover, and this was the heyday of Facebook, 2018. You know, anybody basically was like, yeah, you just run Facebook ads and make a bunch of money, you know, at least that's what they were claiming. So I went down all these marketing rabbit holes like Facebook ads and Google ads and lots of others to discover SEO, to discover, well, why does this stuff work so great for some and not very well for others? And because I wanted to learn how to differentiate myself. I'd already decided on the name Hammersport Marketing because the name of that car was Hammersport Racing. And I didn't want to name myself yet. I couldn't figure it out because I didn't know what I was as a marketer. So I went down those rabbit holes and discovered in my opinion, the X factor in marketing and branding. Well, the X factor in marketing is branding, you know, and by branding, I mean what it looks like and what it sounds like, what it feels like. And if we could make your brand smell, I would be doing that right now too. Because smell is one of the most, you know, memorable emotions or sensory things that elicit emotions. And that's what branding and marketing is about, is eliciting emotions to get people to take action, right? And I started to become passionate about that because I started to realize, wait a second, when I was in high school, I wanted to work for an advertising agency or own an advertising agency. And it was because I was always fascinated about influence and how people think and make decisions and how they react to the messages of the world. And I realized that this is the superpower. Like when you learn these skills, it doesn't matter what you do, you can win at anything. And, you know, that's become my goal, is to, you know, I think that my place to help people in this world is, you know, for me, I'm not too worried about wealth. I certainly wouldn't be against being wealthy. I'm not there yet. I have a long ways to go. But if other people want to do that, then I'm happy to help them. And marketing and branding and understanding how to use that to grow your business is a super valuable tool. And when I know those, when I've mastered them, I'm an expert now, but I'm not a master. Once I've mastered them, then I get to go around and decide who wins. And that's probably the egotistical side of that's my ego speaking. But if I can align my ego with good morals and helping the world, then I think my ego is actually working for me.
Wow. That is very, very cool, very, very fascinating. I mean, it almost seems like you've been involved with so many different things, so many different industries, from restaurants to roofing to construction to real estate investing to like all that kind of stuff. You kind of dabbled in a lot of different things, and then rally car driving and racing. Now, the thing is, it seems like you went into those things without too much preparation either. You kind of got in it there and then quickly adapted, learned, and become good at what you were supposed to be doing. How do you have that? Is that something you were born with, or is that something that you've always been working on, being able to absorb information fast and apply it fast and making it work for you fast?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about that too much, but I mean, I would attribute it to learning to read well at a young age. I just read a lot of books when I was a kid because I lived in the country, and we didn't have, like, my parents didn't let me just have free reign on a television. I'm 48 years old, so that was in the, I grew up in the 80s as a child, right?
Mm.
Uh, I've always, that's the adventurer in me. Like, to me, an adventure is going into the unknown, right? And I like going into the unknown. You said a really important word there, without any preparation, and that is really far from the truth. Like, doing that right there, being able to take a car over a jump at 95 miles an hour. I'm not the driver. I'm in the passenger seat telling the driver that it's okay to go straight at that big hump in the dirt and hit it at 100. Uh, that takes an incredible amount of preparation.
Mhm.
So to me, preparation is the one thing you can control when you go into an adventure or go into a situation.
Mhm.
So I think that I learned that at an early age, that and I don't know how that came about. I guess, maybe in watching my father make fine art with wood. That's all you're doing in art, is
Right.
preparing, right? Like, it's all prep. You're preparing. He prepared his skill set first, and then he's preparing the wood to put it together so that it has this final end result. So one of my biggest strengths is project management, and I attribute that success and ability to manage a project by being prepared.
Mhm.
So in the beginning of a project, you prepare for the whole thing, and then so that you can understand the different steps of the project. And then throughout the project on a daily basis, you're preparing for those steps that need to take place that day. Because I've ran thousands and thousands of permits, and here in the state of Florida. And they're all governed by the laws of the state, but those laws are there to be interpreted by the building departments however they see fit,
Mhm.
which is a wide variety of ways. Okay. So you have to be prepared to deal with all those different ways. And the last thing as I got farther into this career, it became internet, all done on the internet. But in
Mhm.
the beginning, and when I first became a roofing contractor from about 2009 to 2015 or so, this was still done face to face. You walked into permit offices, and if you didn't have the stuff correct, they were like, no, we're not issuing this permit.
Right.
And so you had to drive back or drive to a place to print it out. So I learned to be really prepared with my um with my cloud, and my documents, so that I didn't have to drive all the way home. And
Mhm.
I also learned to be overly prepared with every packet of information that I was bringing in. I always wrote down descriptions the way they were supposed to be, not the way you could get away with. So I've
Mhm.
always been that person, like, I'm not going to do it so that I can get away with it. I'm going to do it so that I know it's done well.
Mhm.
So I think it's just that desire to do something well, you know, and know that it takes time, and know that, but then you also have to be careful of trying to reach for perfection.
Mhm. I
So it's
guess
that,
I guess when I said it didn't seem like you were very prepared, it's more like you jumped into a lot of things head first, and then when things come up, you really learn on the go. Like for
yeah.
instance, when you realize, hey, I need to find sponsorships for me driving, or else I can't do that. I need to learn this now so I can keep it going. All of a sudden, I'm managing all these tenants and this whole building. Nobody told me about this. You didn't really prepared for that before you got into that scenario. and then all of a sudden you learned it because you had to do it and you've made the decision to do well, right? So it's that
Yeah.
knack of being able to learn fast on your feet and applying it. And that's a skill set that I think lots of people are lacking because there's once they fail or once something doesn't go their way, they stop.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you just keep on going.
I would attribute that to, I think people need to really, for me, it was learning what fear is and learning what I'm really supposed to be afraid of
Mm,
and learning what everything else is that I don't really have to be afraid of. And
mm,
this comes from, I literally was thinking about this morning because I've thought about it a lot. Um, it's once again preparation, but it's outdoor survival skills. And also growing up in the country, I know how to garden. You know, my parents still have a garden that's probably 5,000 square feet, you know, so the size of a luxury home. The house is a quarter of the size of the garden, you know. I grew up hunting. I grew up, you know, I trapped. I had a trap line when I was a child, you know, so I caught raccoons and skun them and sold raccoon fur for money, you know. So, and then had a point in time where, you know, like this is a big part of it, and it's going to sound weird. I've eaten out of a dumpster before, not because I had to, but because my friend and I watched them throw away a bunch of food, and we're like, "This is disgusting. We got to try that, see what it's like." But what you learn is how to take care of yourself, and you
mm,
learn what do you need to live, and what do you want to make your life easy. And there's a big difference between want and need.
mm,
So when you become really, really understand, and this is like it didn't just come from that experience. It comes from studying that feeling in myself a long time, heartbreak, and learning how to get over it. You know, reading a lot of books about self-discovery and about what the difference between need and want is. And the fact is you have everything you need all the time until you die.
mm,
And we, like as humans, with all the marketing that's taking place and everything that we're, you know, subjected to in society, um, and because we're so fortunate for all of this amazing technology and like the world growing the way it is, we've kind of been taken away from our root. Well, we have been taken away from our roots of development as a human and an animal living in packs of people and just surviving, you know, where most of your energy was put into just actually getting what you needed to make it through the winter or make it through the summer or whatever, you know. And so now we're not doing that. But we're not taught that we shouldn't be scared of not having that stuff.
mm,
So it was kind of learning that like I have everything I need, so I don't have to be afraid. So I don't have to be afraid of failure, and I don't have to be scared of jumping into something new. I just gotta tackle it head on um and do what it takes to keep pushing it forward, you
mm.
know. But that's a daily activity, you know. Yesterday was the fear can get you, you know, and it's that fear of like, oh, this isn't going to work out. Am I doing the right thing? Am I, you know, what if they don't do this? You know, and all of those things can get you, and they get me too. But then I remember it's like, oh, like all of this matters, but it doesn't matter about my needs. Like I have what I need, and
Mm,
all this could go all away, and I'd still figure out to get what I need, which is, you know, I need some love and connection with people and my dog. I need food. I need water. I need shelter. Um, but I can get all those things without money. Like, would
very
it be easy? No. Then you go to a life of like doing what you need to do on an hourly basis to make sure you survive, right?
true.
But I'm not afraid of that because I know how to do it. So
Mm,
because I know how to do that, I can push into the entrepreneurial world in ways that maybe others don't because they're, you know, have a fear. Now, I don't have children, so I'm not going to take away anything from anybody else about, you know, maybe being a little more conservative with their thinking and life and money and everything and their goals if they have children, because now you got kids to take care of, you know, and like that's a different deal.
right.
So
That is
does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very, very fascinating. Just the way your mind works and how you approach things, look at challenges, look at adversity. Now, how about if other people are telling you not to? Have you faced those challenges before?
Oh yeah, yeah. Um,
Like when you decided to go
I
rally
think that
car racing for the very first time, when that idea popped into your head and you were sharing that amazing thought with family and friends and loved ones, did anybody goes, I don't think you should do that.
I think I experienced the I don't think you should do that so long ago, and I did it anyways, that it carried into my adult life and it wasn't really an issue anymore. My parents are not entrepreneurs, you know, um, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't agree with the big push in society of like coaches and stuff and people, no offense, people saying that you should go be an entrepreneur. I don't believe everybody should be an entrepreneur. I
Right.
don't think it's for everybody, and that's okay. Like, if you want to have 1.5 children and that nuclear family, man, I've made so many mistakes in my life. Who am I to tell anyone else how they should live their life and be happy, and get the things they want? Um, what was the question again exactly?
How you deal with people telling you not to do certain things.
I think it's what other people say is valuable. They have their experiences. Um,
Like, do you have a method of differentiating this person's comment? It has lots of merit to it. However, they're saying it based on their fears. Whereas this person's comment is just pure mean and doesn't want you to succeed.
yeah. Okay, that's a good question. Um, so the first people, I think it comes with recognizing your own emotions. And I still have a long ways to go. I know that I can become a more emotionally intelligent person. And I also know that I'm more emotionally intelligent now than I was 5 years ago, right? So I think it comes with the emotional intelligence of whenever something feels emotional, that's a clue that something's happening, right? It could be a clue that they're wrong, or it could be a clue that you're wrong. Or so whatever it is, it's a clue that should be um, introspected on rather than acted on right away. And and if you think about it and you let that emotion cool off and then think about like, well, what's right for me and what's right for them, then you can make a decision.
Hmm.
On the other side, you just have trolls and bullies. They're going to exist, and they're once you've and they can trigger you too, right?
Hmm.
Uh, but if you treat that the same way, where you don't act on your emotions and you just kind of introspect on your emotions, then you can recognize the difference between a caring friend who's has a maybe is being a little more conservative, or a troll or bully who's just trying to make themselves feel better by bringing you down. And both of those things happen. Um, so so it takes I think it's just that you got to think about those and be it really just comes to like being aware of
Right.
those scary feelings inside. Fear, anger, like retribution, like that getting defensive, you know. Um I think it's really valuable to understand that we're all hypocrites,
Hmm.
because we're flawed. There's no way for me to act like a binary machine and just always do it the right thing. And so um, you know, I think it's just that it's emotional intelligence, and I want more of that. So I'm always working on it, and it's that thinking about, should I be angry in this situation? And sometimes you should be angry. Anger is like a warning sign that somebody's crossing your boundaries. You
Hmm.
know, I was angry at some friends the other day in business because and I wasn't angry that they were wondering why I did it this way, or if I'm right or wrong. I was angry that they thought my intentions weren't pure.
Right.
And so I thought about it and I was like, I should be angry here. You guys are supposed to be my friends. And so you should come to me with communication. In fact, I've always thought that you guys were great communicators, and I like thought this was I respected you for that, and yet you're not doing it here. So I'm going to show you some anger because I think that it's justified in this situation, you know? And then I let it cool off and said, here's the things I'm not angry about and that you're not wrong about. And I'm going to take responsibility that maybe I should have done a better job in communicating even when you didn't ask for it. On the other side of that, the kind of lost that train of thought, but it's a good one. Let me get it back. It's nope, I don't have it. Sorry.
That's all good. It's going to come back to you in a bit. I'm sure of it in the middle of another question. But you talked about communication, how important that it is. And something that you're also very good at is communicating online, networking online, building relationships online. And I know there's a lot of people out there who goes, oh, I'm so sick of this online stuff. I'm so sick of virtual Zooms. I'm so sick of connecting online that they go, it's always, always better when it's face to face. What's the difference that you find between building relationships face to face versus virtually? What's more advantageous or what's more beneficial?
So I haven't mastered online networking by any means. I did master face-to-face networking. So I realized the benefit. I put my time in with BNI, Business Networking International. I found the good group because there's good groups and bad groups of every networking organization, of every organization. And I was so successful with it that I know it works because I was ingrained in the system. So as I transitioned, you know, into business, and I transitioned to, you know, I used to be a local salesperson. I sold locally to businesses locally. As I transitioned into being in a business where I sell nationally, I decided I wanted to do online networking instead, right? And we discussed this. The difference is real. It is easier to make a relationship and form a relationship and keep up with a relationship if you're face to face. It's just a fact. I mean, it's how we were. I believe in evolution. I believe it's how we evolved. We evolved from my readings. I agree. We evolved in groups of 100 people where we all took care of each other, right? And it was a daily, like that was the biggest thing that we evolved in is community. You know, like humans didn't have a chance if we didn't become communities and the productive like communities that divided the work, you know, and let people do what they were good at so that the others could do what they were good at. And that's where we, you know, have this drive to have community and relationships, and it's ingrained in our brain, you know, in our evolution. So it's going to be easier face to face, but it's not the world we live in now, right? So my whole thing is just because it is this way doesn't, you know, like we have to adapt. So I think it's harder to do it online, but I think the things that the activities and way you treat people are the same. It's just a little harder to do it when you're not face to face and when you're not local to them either, because it's easier to become face to face, you know, by calling them up and let's meet up. So my belief and what I will prove is that it can be done. It just, so there's some negatives and some benefits. The negative is that it's harder to do. The positive is that we don't have to travel to do it. So if it's half as productive building a relationship, meaning that I have to try twice as hard to do it or spend twice as much time or give it twice as many resources to build a relationship online as in face to face, well, whatever that number is, it's a fact. But it also, I can just do that and I can put in the more time, and lo and behold, because it's online, I can actually give it twice as much time to the face-to-face part because there is no travel and logistics of getting ready and doing all this stuff to meet up. So it might not be as effective, but you can do twice as much of it. So why not just repeat the same, like activities that you would do and treat people the right way. And I believe that relationships can be built. So for me, it's more beneficial. If you're running a local business, I mean, you should do local networking, you know? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, very well. I'll go backwards just a little bit here. You talked about your experience in cold calling and learning a great deal from that, from speaking to vocal variety to connecting to rejection. I'm pretty sure when it comes to cold
Yeah.
calling. Share with us one of the most challenging thing. Well, I'm guessing we all know what the most challenging thing about cold calling is getting the rejections. How did you overcome that? And is there a story that you could share where it was one of the most interesting ways of connecting cold calling, or like a story where, hey, that actually happened when I was
Yeah,
cold?
yeah, I have a couple of stories because I think cold calling also it actually for me started with door knocking.
Mhm.
So, and I never even thought about like I never thought I'd be a good salesperson. And I don't, I'm a decent salesperson. I'm good because I just do it. Right. And activity is 99% of the battle. But it started with getting into sales. Okay. So I was working for a roofing company doing the roofing in Minnesota. Um, the owner of the company took me aside and was like, hey, I want you to come and sell roofs for me. We're going to go chase a hailstorm in Arizona. And I was like, well, that's crazy. Like, I'm not a salesperson, But then I just thought, I was like, well, I don't know. I don't even know about sales. And this guy is a great salesperson. So if he thinks I can do it, I should probably listen to him more than I should listen to myself. So that was the big thing, is like just try kind of trusting somebody else that thought I was right. Prior to that, I had also justified it myself because I was for a while doing repairs for that company, and I only saw all their mistakes. And this is a little off subject, but it'll get there. And I was like, man, this is the worst am I working for the worst roofing company in the world? Like I'm just going from one mistake to another, fixing them over and over. And then I realized, wait a second, every dollar that guy pays me, he's losing profit
Mhm.
because I'm expensive to fix these problems.
Right.
And I was like, oh, maybe I'm working for a great company here. And so then that guy asked me that question. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So we went to Arizona. We were late. It was a huge hailstorm. There had been hail this big, so like literal holes in roofs. But every door, and this was in 99, maybe 90, 99. Yep. Everybody I mean, the storm was over. The roofers had already been there. But we didn't know that because this was our first storm. This was our first experience doing that. So we had to go knock doors. The beauty of a hailstorm is if this guy has hail, then that guy has hail. Everybody around here has hail. So all you got to do is talk to them.
Yep.
I mean, and I knocked on hundreds and hundreds of doors for 2 months straight. It was all day long knocking on doors. I sold one job. And I remember specifically, I came to the door, had a big like screen, like a kind of like a gate screen door, like big bars and stuff for protection.
Mhm.
And the lady wouldn't open the door. She was just, we don't want any. We don't want any. And so I think you just got to get over it and like put some humor into it. Like that was hilarious. I felt bad for her because I was like, I can empathize. I was like, oh gosh, this lady's had so many people knock on her door that she didn't even want to hear what I said. So so it just becomes part of it. It's to me, the rejection was never really the biggest part. What I don't like is doing an activity and not getting results.
Mhm.
Like that's the biggest rejection to me. I don't when other people reject you, I've learned most of it on the phone isn't about it's not about whether you're a good person or a bad person or what you're doing is right or wrong. It's just how did their 5 minutes go before they talk to you?
Right.
you know? And so it really is just learning to not take things personal. And
Mhm.
that once again comes from reading books and learning that taking things personal is a detriment to your own well-being because it's going to affect how you decide to take action. If you take things personal, you won't take action. And if you realize that it's not personal, you'll continue to take action. So combine that with if you're taking action and not getting results, then you need to change. So I think all of these things we've been talking about, fear and all of this conversation, all comes down to that, is like, are you willing to, you have to realize that nothing will be different if you don't do
Mhm.
something different. And so in cold calling and indoor knocking and stuff, if it's not like, you can keep doing it once you have results, because you're like, oh, I'm getting what I want by doing something I don't want to do.
Mhm.
But if you don't get what you want, well, then it's hard to keep going, you know? So, but if other people are getting what they want doing that thing and you're not, then you must be doing something wrong. And so you should probably listen to them and what they're doing, you know?
Awesome.
So it's that willingness to just accept that, you know, I think it comes from a science teacher in maybe 11th grade, was like, the more you learn about science, the more you're going to come to understand how little you actually know. You know, so and I'm sure you've experienced this. The more we know, the more we know how much we don't know.
More questions.
And yeah. So it's my ability to combine all of these feelings and thoughts into one thing, that is, if you want something different, you got to change. And so I'm not afraid to change.
Mhm.
You know, is it painful? Yeah. Change is painful. And so, but does pain last forever? No. You know, so pain is temporary. Change is forever beneficial.
Awesome. Honestly, all your stories are so captivating, and our time has gone by very, very fast. We haven't even jumped into details about sales and branding, but a lot of the stuff that you shared really showcases the type of mind that you have. You come from a problem, a scenario, or a challenge from so many different facets or so many different angles, that from the technical, from the creative, from the emotional, that it's obviously that's why you're so successful in what you do, is because you're able to come and attack a problem from so many different sides and so much different experiences that you've gone through. So I'm sure that's why you're so successful in what you do, because people realize that you are so good at analyzing the problem and finding out the solution to it. But before I let you go, I have a few quick rapid fire
Sure.
questions for you. Give
Yeah.
me the first thing that's come to mind. You're stranded on a desert island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence.
It's going to be a fruit. Um, Apples.
Ah, perfect.
But
Um,
not too complex that you get sick of it. Just kind of plain and simple, but doable
mhm.
for a long time. Because to me, I'm not thinking about what am I going to enjoy today. I'm thinking about what am I not going to hate in a month from now.
My answer is oranges. It's very close.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Um, okay, so you do rally car racing. Is there one person, one either fictional character or a celebrity or something like that, that you would love to have sit right beside you? And why would you like that person to sit beside you in a rally car race?
Hmm, okay. Um, I think in that it would be one of the Ayrton Senna. So do you know who that is? Senna
Nope.
is an F1, a super famous
Okay.
F1 driver who died
Mhm.
in an accident, and he could drive a vehicle um, like nobody else. The things he could do in these older F1 cars was amazing. So I say him because he's so famous, and like he is the epitome of all the way, like no holding back. Like he is at 100%
Mhm.
the entire time. Um, Really, it could be any one of those drivers that knows how to do that, because like we're good, like we're okay. It's all my driver. He grew up doing motocross. He grew up like working on things and building stuff. He grew up like what you need to do to be a race car driver.
Mhm.
And if you watch him drive and watch what his feet do, you're like, oh yeah, he's a race car driver and I am not. You know, um, we've won 3 out of 4 medals, or not one. We medaled We haven't gotten a first place. We medaled 3 out of 4 races once we've had that car completed. And that's because of our teamwork and our preparation and because he's good. We're rated at what's called like a speed factor of 55. And I think that maybe goes to 100. So we like if we enter a race right now out of 60, we'll start at about 15th because they rate you at your speed factor. So we're pretty good. You know, we've done stuff that people have been doing this for 20 years and never been on the podium. Okay. But it's all preparation. It's because we prepared with that car so much. But we both have talked about it. We run at about what we consider 55 to 60% of what's called maximum attack, like hitting that course and running it. Obviously, no fear involved, as hard as you possibly can. We're only at 55 to 60% of what we could do for like 30 seconds, but we could never do without wrecking, right? Like we're not capable and experienced enough to run at max attack and not screw up.
Well,
okay. So we know like the reason we're successful is because we haven't screwed up. Like I've never gotten a rush in a rally race, not once, because rushes come from being surprised about something in a situation you can't control. Okay. But I would love to sit in the car with somebody who can do that because they are at such a level so far above us that it's almost unfathomable to understand what it would be like. You know, like me being in the car with him, we're just driving, like we're doing our job. If you were in the car with him, you'd probably freak out, right? If I was in the car with one of those people, I'd probably be really, really scared, but it would be amazing because they're that good.
Awesome. Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, Lewis, we love your story. We would love to do a biopic on you. Who would you like to play you?"
Huh. That's a weird one. I mean, right away it goes to like comedians. You know, like it would be probably Jim Carrey or maybe Ethan Hawke. You know, some of these Hollywood characters that have kind of like aren't the typical embodiment of Hollywood, or maybe they are to some people, you know, but just somebody who's kind of has, in my eyes, worked to live the same path, which is I love that story of Jim Carrey, you know, how many failures he had before he became successful, you know, and I think those people that have gone through those tons of failures more than I have, and I know they've had more failures because they've had more success, you know, so that would be, it'd be maybe, you know, I'm as animated as Jim Carrey. I'm just not nearly as funny.
Well,
so he could do it. It'd be easy for him.
Well, Jim Carrey shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, Lewis, I got casted to play you. Let's hang out. Boy, I'm hungry." You go, "Don't worry about it, Jim. I'm gonna cook you something nice. What's your specialty?"
And I cook a really mean steak. My specialty though, it's gonna be a little like right now, sourdough bread. So that would be it.
And a piece of steak wedged in between.
Yeah. A steak, a grass-fed steak, probably some Wagyu, you know, seared and then slow cooked in butter.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and then some homemade sourdough bread.
Great. Last question. Give me a number from 1 to 5.
3.
1, 2, 3. So if you had to use Botox as a metaphor for success, how is success like Botox?
Botox is like success in that neither one of them are real. It's all a construct of like what you believe looks good or feels good.
Nicely done. Awesome way of looking to that. So that's how success is like Botox. Thank you very much for your time, your stories, your journey, all that great stuff. Because there was a lot of hidden gems in all the stuff that you shared today, from emotional intelligence, from technical stuff to branding, marketing, sales, mindset. So thank you very much for all that. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Uh, I think just social media, all my name is Louis T. May. So, and if you Google me, you find me. That's really it. I've done my job to leave a foundational imprint of my own personal brand and my business brand. You're welcome to go to hammersportmarketing.com, click on one of the buttons there, and you can set an appointment with me or find me anywhere on social media. Google my name. I look just like this. You'll see me, no problem.
Awesome. And any final words from you?
I just really appreciate this. I learned a lot today speaking with you and answering these questions. I learned a lot about myself, and it was fun. I appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Well, thank you very much. So everybody, here's Lewis. My name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.